Okay. First of all, just want to say thank you, God. And this is what I want to start off with. It's funny how I'm listening to Perps trying to disorient me and diffuse, not even diffuse, deflect reality. It's too obvious what's happening, and I know they want me to let this perps are this contracted or subcontracted individual, or like a level of contraction that's very removed from really the sources of who's behind what's happening to us target individual. Perps are those contracted or subcontracted individual partaking in a program where they are developing this weapon system that can attack your body and your mind. Their job is obviously to implement this technology onto you, but on top of that, it's supposed to confuse and disorient the target individual. You're supposed to think that this is anything but this massive government doing that to you. You're supposed to believe that this whatever facade they like to portray, and they have no shame to portray that facade. As stupid, as idiotic as it is, as obvious that they're just trying to portray the facade, they're gonna stick with the beat, the persona, the false personas. They're gonna stick with these comical scenarios they put in front of you, when the reality is they clearly are just some contracted bottom feeders working for governmental entities that are developing this weapon system that can alter, manipulate your body, your mind, and do all these things to you remotely. And for me, it's been a disgusting facade. Now, who's really behind what's happening here? It's clear that the entities behind what's happening to us are connected to the Department of Defense. The weapon system that is applied onto us is as sophisticated as it gets. And the entities working on these sophisticated weapon systems are... Let me just show you what I'm talking about. Are clearly Department of Defense entities specifically to DARPA. Specific to DARPA. And so this woman described what DARPA is.
Oh my absolutely God. Most mind-bending thing they created. I think the biohybrids, because when I say that thing they have done, right? So let's, for anyone who isn't familiar with DARPA, right? It's the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, a mouthful. They added the D. They added the D for defense, but it is the most powerful, most secretive, most productive military agency in the world. And I kind of believe that before I wrote the book, most people had not heard of DARPA. I mean, I think, or at least when I was doing press for it, I was like shocked. I think you're right about that. So that's fascinating. And part of that has to do with DARPA likes the public perception of, that they like do all these things for the good of humanity. And actually, we know from the declassified documents again, or actually this was not declassified, this was the statement by the first SecDef at the time, the SecDef at the time that the DARPA was created, Neil McElroy, an advertising executive who became the Secretary of Defense. He said, he went to Congress to get the funding, and he said, this agency is going to create the vast weapon systems of the future. That is what DARPA does. They are always 20 years ahead of anything that you or I know. So any technology that is like, what the hell was that I just saw and you're not supposed to have seen, that's DARPA. They were doing Neuralink in the 90s, right? They are always doing things 20 years before you know about them, because...
DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Program, a project agency. Been working on technology that's surreal. It's almost almost science fictional, but really, really up there in advancements. And this is the entities that work on this technology that now today we just discover. As a target individual, what's happening to us is coming from those entities. That's how they develop this weapon system, and this is how they use us as guinea pigs. They develop this weapon system, and then they utilize this contracted trash to help develop improve the tactics of this weapon system, the efficiency of this weapon system, using human beings. This is DARPA here in the 60s and what they're working on.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day. Your mind can be altered.
In the 60s, they were working on technology to see if they can alter the mind of a human being. On paper, in the 60s, they said that they were using monkeys and utilizing electromagnetic radiation on them to see how they react. In the 60s. You heard this man talk about Neuralink. You know what Neuralink is? It's when they put a chip in your brain. That's Elon Musk company, where right now they have a monkey chipped. Actually, they have human beings, and with the brain signal, able to make some device work certain ways. This technology can control your mind, your thought process. Remember, the brain signal. This is how this Neuralink is supposed to be working. So people who are paralyzed, the good aspect of it all for Neuralink, they're going to implant a computer chip in their brain, and because this chip can capture the brain signal. The brain signal is then sent to some kind of app, and the app can just definitely can control some kind of devices. DARPA was working on that kind of stuff in the 90s, 30 years or so ago. Now, let me show you what this man says about brain signals and how this works. And how they're able to capture your brain and manipulate your brain.
Citizens being controlled by government-sanctioned experiments. Is Shelley Welsh telling the truth, or are her claims absurd? Just another conspiracy theory that's impossible to prove. Maybe. But not if you listen to Nick Begich.
I think there's some good evidence that Cheryl Welsh and many of the other people I've spoken with have been victimized by this electromagnetic mind control experience. The weapons of this century aren't bombs and bullets and ordnance, but electromagnetic energy targeting the human being, which is the greatest revolution in military affairs since gunpowder.
Begich is an expert in government mind control. He is convinced the Pentagon has mastered a technology once thought to be science fiction. The ability to broadcast information directly into the human brain.
Our government began spending a lot of time looking at how to modify behaviors of human beings. Going back to the Korean War, in fact, in a publication, Low Intensity Conflict in Modern Technology, they have a chapter on electromagnetic weapon systems and being able to not just to debilitate someone, but actually even to stimulate certain activities within the brain. HARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, which started as a joint effort of the Air Force and Navy. This is a very large array or field of antennas based in Alaska, radio frequency antennas.
HARP antennas transmit powerful radio signals into the upper atmosphere to study the effects on wireless communications. But Begich says HARP can also be used for more sinister ends.
HARP has announced several of their programs and campaigns, and there's two areas that I got very concerned about. One was the weather modification applications. The other was the effect on human beings. If you can modulate a signal that the brain locks onto, recognizes, and begins to mirror or follow the frequency following response. The brain rhythms change, then it creates a chemical cascade that the brain locks onto, recognizes, on human beings. But you can modulate a signal that the brain locks onto, recognizes, and begins to mirror or follow the frequency following response. The brain rhythms change, then it creates a chemical cascade within the brain, and emotions change. Now the resolution gets finer and finer and finer. And it used to just be about triggering emotions. You would change people's brain chemistry pretty readily, change their emotional state pretty easily. But when you get down to the idea of thoughts and being able to manipulate those, that requires a different kind of sophistication.
So HARP, as he described, was ran by DARPA directly. Then, because of the optics of it all, they gave away responsibility of HARP to the University of Alaska. That's where HARP is located. HARP is this field of like bunch of antennas that's supposed to kind of help with the weather system or something like that. And you heard what some of the goals of HARP. DARPA was running HARP directly. Now they're using it's a third party, the Alaskan University, and they do their work through them. And you heard what this man was scared of is if the way they can manipulate your brain is they capture your brain signals. Once they have that signature of your brain signals, they can mimic that, and then your brain is going to be connected to that because your brain is not linked via these brain signals that they can capture. Once you connect to this device, whatever device creates your brain is going to mimic it. So that's how they can control your brain without even using chips. Chips seems to be like an old technology. You heard DARPA was working on that like in the back in the days. Now they don't even need that. You heard that this Neuralink chip literally captures the brain signal. That's why the brain signal is captured and then used to connect with this app. That then the app, based on reading your brain signals, can do these things via your brain. He's saying that once you can capture a brain signal of somebody, so that means the chip basically capture all this information, then makes it possible for you to be hacked. But this is old stuff. The Neuralink is old. They don't need chips. He's saying that now with this electromagnetic field, they can capture that without even needing to put something in your brain. Like you said, DARPA is ahead in so many years. And he said, as long as you have the brain signal of somebody, if you can capture those signals, that signature of your brain, and you lock it in with something else that can mimic that, that brain is now connected to the device, and the device, all they have to make you experience something they want you to have, they control the device, and the device, zoop, your brain's gonna mimic that. So, for me, I've been dealing with that. Obviously, it's more than just that for me. I'm talking about the brain manipulation because it's the more science fictional sounding thing. But they are attacking my body. They're destroying my organs. Because this weapon system is no longer using bullets. It's not about bullets or this like high level of like destruction. No. They can systematically target organs. The weapon system of the future will not be about bombs and things like that. No. It's about just targeting specific part of your body and do harmful things to you. You don't even have to really kill somebody. You can push a person to insanity by just forcing them to think in certain ways. That's what is happening to us, Target Major. We're just these guinea pigs for these weapon systems. And entities like DARPA are developing weapon systems that's insane. And the DOD, obviously DARPA is under the DOD. And they work with other DOD agencies, armies, and what to develop this weapon system. They are the entity behind the sophistication of all the weapon systems. Talk about drones and things like that. They've been working on drones since the 60s. You just start hearing drones in the 90s, not even in 2000. This weapon system that you see from the Air Forces and all this started from DARPA. listen to this man describing what the future is in regard of weapon system. This same man
turned over to DARPA.
He's talking about HARP.
He later got turned over to DARPA, and most recently turned over to the University of Alaska to run the facility for a bunch of contracts for DARPA and all the guys that used to run it because it got too controversial for him.
He's talking about how DARPA used to run HARP, then it became too controversial, and so they gave it to the Alaskan University. The Alaskan University now is taking contracts from DARPA.
Frequency, you can look at the Radio Frequency Dosimetry Handbook, 1986, University of Utah, produced for the Air Force. It gives you the resonant frequencies for each vital organ so that you can send in a radio signal that will couple with the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, and cause them to malfunction so that you can degrade the performance of your adversary. The new weapon systems being developed today will attack the mind, the body, and our physiology on an energetic level. Not with bullets and bombs. It's a perfect Republican weapon. No offense to Republicans here, but you don't want to destroy the property. You have to rebuild it afterwards. This is a weapon systems of the 21st century.
The weapon system of the 21st century. And so now, what's happening to us, target individual? We're dealing with these disturbing manipulations that's, is described by this man.
That can pipe voices into an individual's head. And once you can do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And so you can call it a eugenics program. And they need to sample all cultures, language throughout the world to define the probability matrices of which tricks, techniques, deception works. So how do you control them? Most people don't believe that.
So they rewire your thought process, your brain, and force you to have these disgusting manipulations. They play with my brain in the most disturbing ways. The most common tactic of disturbing you is using this technology, is manipulating your brain to have these disgusting sexual reactions, pedophilia-centric weapon tactics, and doing things that are disgusting. First of all, they can manipulate your sexual arousals. You heard this man saying, this like emotions, sensations, those manipulations are easy. They can create that easily in your brain. They just make you experience a stimulation. They can make you feel happy. They can make you feel sad. They can make you feel aroused. They can make you feel depressed. They can make you feel whatever. And they control. And then they try to gaslight you using this contracted low life around you. They create a controlled environment of individuals who's supposed to gaslight you, to make you think that this reaction, this emotion, this thought process are all happening organically, that you should identify with this manipulation. They created the personas, they put things together to try to break you down. They're really weaponizing this weapon system that attack the body, and my body is destroyed. And your mind with the psychological, cognitive tactics of breaking you down. And they use perps of all sorts. They have no shame. This perps like this can come and start gaslighting you, childlike people, right? And the funny part of what you're seeing here, what I appreciate this picture, it just shows you what they do. They look at their phones, right? Now I don't know if whatever my brain reaction, they need to look at their phone. I don't know if it's just for the gimmickness of it all, or if it's actually something. But they look at their phone, and basically, what they're trying to say by looking at their phone is like, oh, we just saw what you experience in your brain. And they make you experience these disgusting thoughts, disgusting reactions, disgusting stimulation, disturbing things. And to gaslight you, to make you identify with this manipulation, they try to make you feel guilty for how they manipulate your brain. And they're looking at their phone in this fashion to try to make you think, oh, we just saw that. It's like gaslighting you. It's like, oh, I saw that, so it's true. And the truth is what they try to also present. It's like, no, we're just surveilling your brain. We're not manipulating your brain. It's gaslighting to try to break you down. They make you have this disgusting thought. As this target individual mentioned.
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of it. This disgusting, disgusting, disgusting thing. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I didn't want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing.
People in her surrounding, and the word she was trying to say is the pedophilia word. They use these disturbing tactics to break you down. And it's consistent with other target individuals saying the same thing. They force people to have thoughts, reaction that are designed in these pedophilia ways.
This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds.
What you just heard is coming from some book called No Touch Torture, where he's examining all the symptom target individuals are mentioning. As I said that, they try to rewire my brain in different fashion, but I'll get to that. This person who you heard him talk about the brain being rewired, interview 1,000 target individuals, figuring out what are they all saying. He said almost all of them said their minds are being forced to have imaginations that are pedophilia centric. Out of 1,000, just like this person you just heard, they clearly do this systematically. They do things that works in regard of breaking you down. Now this gaslighter around you are supposed to make you believe that what's happening is just surveilling. They went to your brain. They just mapped. They coming using different lingo, like you've seen how they look like, to try to gaslight you into accepting this clear, systematic tactics of tormenting target individual, using this pedophilia tormenting tactics as a weapon system, as a tool to weaponize this technology.
Is what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of plant.
The pedophilia type of torture. This is a target individual who clearly calls it that. I figured that this is something they did systematically. When I started signing petition, I was saying that in petition of target individual, I realized, okay, they do these things. They do these disgusting things. And they can easily do that. Because what's happening is they control your brain and make you have the reaction they want you to have.
Designed to interact with the human nervous system. In order to remotely pick up on someone's neural network or EEG and not only receive that and monitor it, but manipulate it and place it back into the victim to control their emotions or control their actions or bodily functions for that matter. The other more recent term we have for that is EEG heterodyning or EEG cloning. The difference between EEG heterodyning and EEG cloning would be, let's say, me remotely receiving your EEG and then duplicating it and putting that in another person to give them your same thoughts or feelings or physical reactions. EEG heterodyning would be receiving your EEG, manipulating it to put it back inside your head to give us a desired physical reaction or emotional reaction.
And so that's how they can just make you have these sexual stimulations whenever they want. The thought process, all of that, manipulating you. And they love to play with the libido in disturbing ways. And for me, you know, I just say the obvious, and I know that it's not going to change what's going to happen, but these perps want to stay in character. They want to stay in this method acting ways of just kind of delusionality. I think there's a clear testimonial here, which I'm trying to pull up. And this man just described this.
This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal.
It can make the target individual feel sexual arousal. It's nasty. And then they have this perps interacting with you via this technology. I think she describes it here better. And they say whatever random things they can say to kind of disorient you. And as I'm so
of torture. They V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind.
So, as you heard initially, that men say how they rewire your brain. They have this technology called voice to skull, right? This is something the Department of Defense has been working on a long time ago. They have that technology. They actually utilized it a few times during some wars, at least officially said, where, you know, they will pipe in voices toward the enemies and let them know and tell them that they are gods, and God is, this is Allah, and, you know, using this technology that can pipe in voices into their brain directly. So when you hear these people interacting with you, they're using this technology that can pipe in those voices. For me, they're using obviously contracted nothings. Like I said, we're guinea pigs. They're not using like special agent to do this onto us. Just like a lot of this experimentation that's been done in the past, they subcontract bottom feeders of all sorts, huh? Some are just childlike people. Some of them are probably in the academia world. Some of them, you know, whoever is around you, they can utilize that. Contract them. And they will say, no, this is something like via this V2K, piping those voices into your brain. So, and having this interaction to try to agitate you at the same time, to gaslight you, but you don't even have respect for them. They have to be clowns. Try to tell you, no, what we're doing, we're mapping, we're doing this and that. And it's so clown-like. And they have no shame. But you gotta understand, you don't have shame when you don't have to be seen playing this retard. It's piping in your head. You don't get to see these perps and the low life that they are, and the trash that they are. When you see them for the low life they are. But they have no shame. They know that this brain can be manipulated however they want you to experience. They just made me have this disgusting reaction not too long ago. I think it was yesterday toward these babies. Let me see if I have this. You see at the background up there, these kids, you know the nasty things they were doing? They were making me, they have these trickeries of thought manipulation. They were starting to make me have sexual thoughts of me and a woman that I was with. Then stimulate me. I was like, why would they do that? Like, but I realized that's what they usually do when I'm gonna see a kid later. They've learned, they've started doing these things where, not even start, where this arouse you in advance, making you think of something that perhaps can make you think in an arousal way, but they make you think this way, plus cranking up the libido. So then when your libido is up, aim those sexual arousals toward kids. Like in the background, it was intense. Even now, I can still feel the residue of the stimulation they made me have yesterday. Babies. Babies. I wish I could show the little tiny little babies. And then they have this trash that is supposed to gaslight you into accepting these things. So for me, they like to present, and actually a lot of target individuals, they do these things where to confuse the target individual, to make them believe that this is anything but this massive government using you as a guinea pigs, manipulating your brain to develop this weapon system. Weapon system, meaning they're weaponizing this technology. They create this like psyops and facades to try to get you to be accepting of these manipulations. It's part of these trickeries and deceptive tactics.
Or modern, even clear. Spies. It's government re-aliens, worsters, people that will carry the V2K. So they'll say we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all these stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do.
With me, what they've been trying to create is like we're this like different type of group of people with you who are mapping your brain, and they say, oh, I little girls, because what's happening, these little babies, these little toddlers, they force them to get nasty reaction. And they're like, no, but that's how you felt when you were a kid. And they use these perps. Matter of fact, it's funny. They have these ways of just trying to like disorient reality. They want you to fall into this perception they present. Target individual, they're gonna play with your perceptions. They're gonna present themselves in such matters, then they can manipulate your perception. For example, they want me to think it's their research and it's a feminist, progressive research that are protecting children. And so they make you have these reactions and start saying, oh, I little girls, you like little girls, and they say it in a sexual way, of course. Nasty, just making you try to make me believe that they are just out here investigating your brain and what they're testing. And when the truth is, they're just trying to get you to accept the manipulation you're experiencing today. And so presenting themselves in a certain fashion, saying, oh, we're just like these good doers for the sake of humanity. When the truth is, they're making your brain experience that to break you down. For example, I don't know if that person is really if it's really a perp. I'll assume it is. You see, I'm some dating apps. I see somebody like this, and I'm looking, and I see researcher, and they're like, oh, you see, and this, as you can see, it's a black young woman as a researcher, so it's their money. It's not these governmental entities that have been developing weapon systems that can attack the mind and the body. Retard. I'm supposed to think because they're female and they look this way, this is not this government program that torture and torment women and men and children around the world. They're clowns. The truth is, first of all, the test subject come in all shape and form. There's men, there's women, and children. This woman here describes, and I love the fact that she calls out the reality of things. She's not out here saying this is a. She calls it out for. She didn't get fooled by the psyops.
global mapping of that system. And when I told her what I was going through, all she could say was, "You're on your own." Well, I figured that out. If you would please, I urge you to pass this. I realize you can't enforce it, but if you would pass it, it might give other communities the courage to do the same thing and show our Defense Department we are not the enemy. We are not to be attacked. We are not terrorists. Most of us are defenseless women.
There's a lot of women being tortured. I'm supposed to think now with us it's a different system. It's a backdoor of it's a channel of feminine. It's so clown-like. They have no shame. And these women literally say there's a lot of females participating in this program in this fashion.
But I was going to be shot in the face, and it was an older guy. He was like really, really disgruntled and pissed off. Yeah, he was shot in the face. You know, it sounded like an angry ass old person. You know, then a couple of days later, a female said the same thing. I was shot in the face. You know, stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is, with the voices well, it's a bunch of females. You know, and I'm like, bro, really? You're not a woman. What real woman?
It's clear who's behind this. And you have this Perps who's just trying to paint that facade for the purpose of you as a target individual to start accepting these manipulations. Target individual, you gotta be strong. They have no shame. It's clear. You know this Department of Defense that's been working on advanced technology and weapon system? DARPA? You know, as they manipulate my brain in this fashion, it's like, now what we're doing, we're going to your brain, we're doing our research and this. The entities that are really doing the research of developing this weapon system are having these issues.
His secrets, potentially making this. The Defense Department releasing brand new details into an investigation involving child pornography and dozens of its workers and contractors, some with top-level security clearance. Not only are these very serious accusations, but investigators say some of the people involved were handling the nation's most sensitive secrets, potentially making this a matter of national security. Chief Fox Report correspondent Jonathan Hunt with the news. Appalling story, Jonathan. Do we know more about these people and their security clearances?
Well, we don't know their exact job titles, John, but what we do know is that they did appear to be working, some of them at high levels, across a range of government agencies. Take a look at this, for instance, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the very secretive Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
DARPA. Child porn on the computer of a program manager at DARPA. Computer given to them by DARPA. This is in 2007. In 2019, this bill was created because of so much child porn was being found on the DOD computers of the DOD employees using DOD network, internet network.
On access, those who are working in the Department of Defense.
So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look, we're not doing enough to stop it from coming in, but we're also not doing enough in the Department of Defense to go after those individuals who are being recognized as the ones who are perpetrating.
They create a bill to try to stop this from happening.
It's being taught
that much more government intrusion into their, their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers.
Well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And when you step into it,
to stop that. And it's clear the same entities are here using human subjects to develop a weapon system where they can weaponize your brain in these disturbing ways and manipulate your brain to have disgusting pedophilia reactions, and then use the psyops and facades of these loseries. You know, with me, what's happening is, as they make me have these nasty reactions, they make me think, no, but we mapped it to you as a child. It's our research. First of all, what kind of retardation is to make you think that what we're doing is we're making you think the way you used to think as a child? Your research is to make people retarded. The truth is, they're trying to make you accepting of this manipulation so you can identify with these things. And they're like, no, but remember what you did as a kid. Let's bring up this impulsive act of a child in middle school to try to make me accept it today. When you see kids, this is what's happening. Well, this shit are involved in a program that rewire the brain in this fashion. But by the way, not only defenseless women are being tortured. No, there's plenty of testimonials of women and their kids being tortured. These people are involved in this.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MK Ultra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here. It's very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I asked Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection.
And you have Perps that they contract all kind of people, child like trash, research, whatever it is. They have employers, my employer participating in that research. No, participate in implementing this tactic to help develop this weapon system. I have neighbors, just child like trash like that, participating. They come in all shape. And you know what? It makes more sense that anybody who's in the academia kind of world, or anybody who's in the science world, or anybody they will enjoy that better. We're talking about the ability to manipulate a human being. So for them, it is a satisfaction to be participating in a program led by these governmental entities that can alter the human brain in this fashion. For their own field, they can gain so much out of it. They can understand how the brain works, be manipulated, what works in manipulations. When it comes to the physical attack, they destroy my organs. Oh, anybody in the medical field will love these things, because what they do, they make you sick. Then the next day, you feel better from the things they made you experience. They treat you from the things they made you experience in the first place. So you gotta understand, you see the agenda they can get out of it, even though they're not the one running this program. Obviously, it's these governmental entities that use these weapon systems to destroy the brain, to destroy the human body in a very sophisticated way. So the Perps can come in this shape or form. They can come in this shape or form. They can come in whatever shape or form. Do not let yourself as a target individual get lost in these psyops and facades. People participating and come in all shape or form. For a homeless person over there in the streets, to a doctor, to a lawyer, to a neighbor, they all can participate in this. But the entities behind this are those entities that you hear with issue with pedophilia. And the sole goal is to break you down using this weapon system. While developing this weapon system and the tactics, whatever opportunity they get out of this, incentives, if it helps a researcher in regard of like, oh, the organs that this, they can do this and this and this, they can break you down like this, and then they're gonna take advantage of that. But at the end of the day, it's a weapon system. They're not here to make you feel better. They're here to break you down, however long it takes. They love to make you think good, feel in these ways, positive, negative, to break you down psychologically, push you into insanity. Why? It's because this government, the weapon system, government entities are developing this weapon system, and they use this retard. That they know his brain is going to go wherever we want it. If we play along, we can push him to accept this, which is not going to happen. So you can hear Perps becoming childlike trash. And then immediately deflect about how I'm going to be tortured in horrible ways. I've been putting reality in their faces so much so that it's been provoking to them. So today, because I exposed this low life to be actually the pedophiles, in these tactics, they try to now, they want to project the fantasized reality where instead of them harming children, you heard how they harm children, working for governmental entities where issue pedophilia, rewiring their brain in a pedophilia-centric way. They're like, oh, you're going to be raped and this. And by the way, they tell me they're going to frame me using their children, which is clear sign that they're child security. As this man said here on the bioethic committee that happened in 2011 when a bunch of target individuals came forward. That was the last time they allowed target individual and said this thing.
My name is Dr. John Hall. I'm a medical doctor from Texas. As I understand the memorandum from the President, it's for you to determine if current legislation is adequate in protecting individuals and if there's any ongoing experimentation. Reviewing the common rule, it's very obvious that there's a lot of loopholes to informed consent. All of the horrific experiments you've mentioned, Willowbrook, MK Ultra, radiation experiments, mostly were done without informed consent. They were funded by the DOD and intelligence agencies, where I'm not even so sure you would know if there's an IRB, much less if an IRB is looking at informed consent. As a physician, relative to some of what you're hearing today, in the community, we are seeing an alarming rate of complaints of use of electromagnetic weapons. Microwave auditory effects, silent sound spectrum, EEG cloning, which has taken the lab out of the laboratory and into the home. Most of these, from the research that we reviewed, can be done remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. I personally corresponded with upwards of 1,500 victims, all complaining of identical complaints from every state in the nation of being exposed to electromagnetic radiation, non-ionizing radiation for the use of cognitive control or behavior control.
That's what's happening. It's the development, the R&D of this weapon system, and they use these perps that I'm supposed to think now this is our research of feminism and the fucking trash, when it's truly just cognitive manipulation, and wanting you as a target visual to identify with this manipulation. For me, I know this brain is no longer mine anymore. I'm being forced to think in these disturbing ways, and they condition my brain to think in these ways. Dreams and manipulations every day. A baby, I see that a baby stimulation. I see a little girl stimulation. I see a teenage kid stimulation. I see somebody who I don't know if it's an adult or not, stimulation. That's all they do. And they use this loser, this childlike trash. It's so weak. Sound like children. Utilizing V2K to try to deflect into and make you accepting of this manipulation. This clown this government uses. Contracted or subcontracted. Trauma target individuals stay strong and see this low life for what they are.